Hey, what's up guys? Ophelia coming at you with another awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. And today's deck profile is going to be an update on my Blue-Eyes Shinning Dragon Turbo deck profile I did for you guys a little while back on the channel. Since I uploaded it, it's become one of the most popular videos on the channel and almost sitting at 2,000 views. So you guys really love this crazy idea I came up with. So guys, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button so you're updated whenever I release new content, and please feel free to check out some of my other videos as well. Now that we've got that out of the way guys, let's get into the profile. Starting off guys, of course we have 3 copies of Blue-Eyes White Dragon. Blue-Eyes White Dragon is a must play at 3 in all Blue-Eyes decks, particularly our Shining Dragon deck, because in order to summon our Blue-Eyes Shining Dragon, we must fuse into Blue-Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So, very straightforward. Blue-Eyes is still a very powerful card, and this deck has an insanely powerful draw engine, which we do abuse a lot in order to get our Shining Dragons out. Next up, guys, we have 3 copies of the Blue-Eyes Alternative White Dragon. So, of course, Blue-Eyes Alternative White Dragon is a monster that can be special summoned. First be special summoned from my hand by revealing a Blue-Eyes White Dragon, not very hard. He counts as Blue-Eyes on field, and we can use him to once per turn target destroy a monster on our opponent's side of the field. So obviously he can't attack the turn he uses his effect. We can always turbo him out, blow up something, and then fuse him with our Blue-Eyes to make Ultimate Dragon and get a free direct attack. Next up guys, 2 copies obviously of the key star of our deck, which is the Blue-Eyes Shining Dragon. He is a level 10 Blight Dragon with the same stats as the basic Blue-Eyes. He must be special summoned by attributing a Blue-Eyes Ultimate Dragon you control and cannot be summoned by other ways. He gains 300 attack points for every dragon in your graveyard, and then whenever an effect card or effect targets him specifically as a quick effect, you can negate it. So very important, really cool card to play him at 2 because you can search him through Melody, however you cannot discard him through trade-in or cards of Constance or anything like that. So I feel like 2 is the correct amount because if you run 1, you'll never get him. If you run 3, you'll see him too much. Next up guys, 2 copies of Dragon Spirit of White. Dragon Spirit of White is always treated as a Blue-Eyes card, so he counts as a normal monster in your graveyard, so if you mill him through your Dragon Shrine, you get to mill an effect monster as well. When he's special summoned, you can target a spell, or he's normal or special, you get to target a spell trap your opponent controls, banish it, and then if he's attacked, is a quick effect, you can bounce him to your hand to summon Blue-Eyes. Now obviously, we just use him mostly for the mill effect, to get our stones and our ancients into the graveyard, but if you summon him out, he's still pretty cool as well. Next up guys, speaking about our legends, we have 3 copies of the White Stone of Legend. When the White Stone of Legend is sent to the grave, we get a free Blue-Eyes White Dragon. It's also a level 1 tuner that we can use to synchro summon into our level 9 synchros. But main reason why we play this at 3 over Ancients at 3 is because we want our Blue-Eyes White Dragons in our hand. There's lots of cool ways to get this into the graveyard, including cards like Cards of Connaissance, Dragon Shrine as well. And of course, if we send him down with Dragon Shrine after sending our Dragon Spirit of White, we get to mill our deck 3 cards because we add a Blue-Eyes White Dragon to our hand, as well as milling Ancient Legend and Spirit of White. Next up guys, 2 copies of Spirit of Ancients, now mostly because it gives us extra consistency for our Cards of Connaissance, being able to discard a level 1 tuner to draw 2 cards. We can also mill this off with our Dragon Shrine as well, and at the end phase we can get a Blue-Eyes out from our deck if we think we'll be safe. But the main reason I play it is for Synchro Fodder and to be used for Cards of Connaissance. I don't really want to use the special summon effect, but of course, if we do end up having to send a Shining Dragon to grave, we can always banish this card from our graveyard to add Shining Dragon or any other Blue-Eyes monster we want from our graveyard to our hand, which is really, really cool. Next up, guys, we have the newest addition to the deck, which is the King of Dragons. The King of Dragons counts as Lord of Dragon on the field, which instantly makes him insane. And ever since they announced this guy, I had to include him in this deck because look at him, he's cool. The Lord of Dragons is one of Kaiba's signature monsters. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the protection effect that the Lord of Dragons has for the dragons, but he still has a pretty powerful special ability. When he's normal summoned, you get to discard a spell or trap from your hand to search your deck for any Lord of Dragons spell card. So by that, I mean any Flute of Summoning Dragon, Melody of the Awakening Dragon, or the new card, Dragon Revival Rhapsody. So I'm playing this guy instead of Sage with Eyes of Blue. Obviously, Sage has a lot of synergy in the deck as well, but for me, Sage bricks me a lot more than the King of Dragons does. And at the end of the day, the King of Dragons is still a monster that I can attack with, theoretically, where Sage doesn't have any attack points. So, and this deck does end up with having a lot of duplicate spells in hand, so here's a really good way to clear out those duplicate spells that you have. Our last main deck monster is 3 copies of King of the Swamp. We can discard it to add a poly or use it as a fusion substitute for any fusion material monster. But in this case, we'll be using it for Blue Eyes. Next up, guys, 3 copies of poly. Yes, 3 King of the Swamp and 3 poly seems ridiculously extensive and obviously very much, but I told you guys, you do need to play this ratio of cards in this deck. There's so many times that you'll be able to get your entire everything out in your hand, so you'll get your Shining Dragon, your 3 Blue Eyes, everything you need except a poly. So 3 King of the Swamp and 3 poly is very, very important in this deck, as is running 2 Fusion Sage. Because believe it or not, despite running 3 poly and 3 King of the Swamp, I still had games with all my draw engine where I would not draw a single polymerization. So 2 Fusion Sage can also get poly to your hand. It's also a really good way to thin your deck a card, or even 2 cards if you open with 2 Fusion Sage. You can always ditch the extra poly for your King of Dragons. So lots of good ways to thin your deck with this deck. Moving on to our draw power, guys, we have 3 copies of Trade-In. Pretty straightforward. Discard a level 8 monster, draw 2 cards. Blue Eyes is a level 8, Alternatives a level 8, and Dragon Spirit of White's a level 8. The only monster, with the exception of our Tuners and our King of Dragons that's not a level 8, is Blue-Eyes Shinning Dragon, but let's be honest, we don't actually want to discard our Shining Dragon. This card combos off really well with our cards of Connaissance, which we can use to discard a level 1 tuner with 1,000 less attack to draw 2 cards. So we can always discard our our White Stone of Legend, draw 2 cards, add a Blue Eyes, and if we really need to, trade in the Blue Eyes and draw an extra 2 cards. Really good way to thin the deck. Going on to our searching, guys, we have 3 copies of Melody of the Awakening Dragon. This card is now searchable, which is pretty cool. Can search it off the King of Dragons, discard 1 card from our hand to search our deck up to 2 dragons with 3,000 or more attack or 2,500 or less defense. So we get to add basically, 2 Blue Eyes Alternative, and Shining Dragon are our only targets in the deck, but that's still 8 targets, so this card probably isn't going to break, especially because it's up to 2, and it's a good way to get those dud cards out of our hand that we've drawn. And it's also not once per turn, which is what makes that card so powerful. In terms of our mill, guys, we have 2 copies of Dragon Shrine. Running 3 copies of Dragon Shrine can brick you, but running 2 copies is really good. We can use it to mill a dragon from our deck, and if it's a normal, we get to send an extra one. What's good for us is Dragon Spirit of White counts as a normal monster in the graveyard, so we can always then mill White Stone of Legends or Ancients as well to the graveyard with him. Resurrection, guys, we have 2 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords, 1 copy of Dragon Shrine. Despite buying 2 cardboard boxes, I didn't pull a single Return of the Dragon Lords. But still, I think Return of the Dragon Lords is really good to play at 2. 3, you could even play at 3 if you wanted to, but I like running 1 copy of Silver's Cry just for the memes, because you can always use this card as a quick play to bring out Dragon Spirit of White from your graveyard to pop one of your opponent's spells and traps, which is really, really cool. But also, Return of the Dragon Lords does give you some protection for your Shining Dragon if it gets hit with a Raigeki or a Mirror Force or something like that, cards that would destroy it that don't target as well, which is pretty cool. You could also include the new spell, Dragon Revival Rhapsody, which is really cool, which allows you to, if you control a spellcaster type monster, target up to 2 dragons in your graveyard, special summon them, 1 has to be normal. So you normal summon you special Blue Eyes, and then you bring out any other dragon you want, which can include Ultimate Dragon. The issue I have with Dragon Revival Rhapsody is you do have to have a spellcaster on field. But this is still really cool card if you really want to include it. And our last card in the deck, of course, is Dragon's Mirror, because Dragon's Mirror at 1 is actually pretty decent in this deck. If all else fails and you really need to make that Shining, you really want to show off to your opponent, you're playing Shining Dragon, you can just Dragon's Mirror out your Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, or even if you really want to, you can Dragon out a 5-headed dragon, if you really want to, just for memes. Which is, I think, the main reason why people run Dragon's Mirror, is just to get out 5-headed dragon. And I think there's that new Dragon Fusion as well that's coming out pretty soon that you can use it for as well. Moving on to our extra deck, guys, we have 3 copies of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. We need 3 copies so that we can summon out our Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, because we have to tribute this to summon it. This guy is really cool because he can be brought back with cards like Monster Reborn and stuff like that. And again, you can run Monster Reborn in the deck, but again, it runs into consistency issues as well. But I mean, it's up to you if you want to run Monster Reborn, so feel free to run Monster Reborn if you really, really want to. 2 because you can Monster Reborn that guy as well. And you can also bring him back with Revival Rhapsody, which is really cool. 2 copies of Twin Burst Dragon. It's a contact fusion on field or just a poly in hand. So can attack twice, can't be destroyed by battle, and any monster it battles that survives is banished at the end. So that's really cool. One copy of Neo Blue-Eyes Ultimate Dragon, because Neo is able to attack multiple times if he's the only monster on field by banishing by sending Blue-Eyes monsters, fusion monsters from your extra deck to grave, which is the main reason why I play 3 copies of Ultimate and 2 copies of Twin Burst, just to get me, you know, extra materials to use for this guy's effect, which is really cool. Then we get to activate the next lot is, of course, Synchros, so 2 Azure Eyes, because it's a Blue-Eyes deck and we do have some Synchro targets. So once it obviously protects your monsters from being targeted or struck by card effects until the end of the turn after it's special summoned. And then during your standby phase, you get a free normal monster, so you get a free Blue-Eyes every standby phase. 2 copies of Spirit, because it allows us to float, and it also negates the graveyard, which is really cool. It's like a Necro Valley. It can really slow your opponent down in their turn if you make this guy. And then you can just tag him out there in phase and then make into Azure Eyes or something like that. And then, of course, we have Stardust Spark, which you can go into from Spirit, as well as Black Rose Moonlight and stuff like that. The issue with running the Synchros is that they do take up your extra monster slot, which is something that hit this deck quite a lot. But if you find a way to get rid of them as well, you can just always tribute them off for Blue-Eyes Dragon and do your fusions that way. But anyway, guys, that's it for the updated deck profile. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions for how I can improve the deck further, I really want to make a deck based around Dragon Revival Rhapsody in the future. Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And feel free to also check out my other videos, which would be really awesome. I would appreciate if you do so. And feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you for my next video.